Welcome to Reflections, a program where we discuss values and virtues for the transformation of the individual and the society in general. I am Father George Ehusani, and I have with me in the studio once again today Dr. Ngozi Ukeje. Welcome.
Thank you, Father.
It's been a while since you came for a chat here.
Yes, almost a year.
Yeah, perhaps more than a year. So I still remember the last discussion.
Yes.
Great. Dr. Ngozi Ukeje is a management consultant and a trainer, former lecturer at Bayes University in management, and she is involved in a lot of. We met at the Institute of Management, the Institute of Management, that where you are volunteering.
Yes. Yeah, Institute for Humanitarian Studies and Social Development.
Humanitarian Studies and Social Development. I mean, we are meeting in so many places, so I'm beginning to mix it up. So she's a management consultant, she's a trainer, and she's a volunteer. Because at that Institute of Humanitarian Affairs, you are a volunteer there and very actively involved. I'm a fellow there, right?
Yes, you are. You are the definite fellow.
Now, and talking about humanitarian affairs, we are to discuss some few weeks ago, you were here with about 65 others to do a training on psychotrauma healing skills.
Yes, Father.
Basic psychotrauma healing skills course. And in the team of people who are there, people who are doctors and lawyers and social workers and volunteers, professionals and volunteers who trained for 5 days to go and offer support to the many traumatized people in our society. What did you discover in the course of the program?
Thank you so much, Father. I really enjoy being part of your program.
Thank you.
And I appreciate you calling me back.
Thank you.
I heard about it by accident, and once I heard about it, I said, I've got to be there. And in being there, what I found out from almost all the 70 people that were there, every single one of us were involved in trauma.
Every single one of us.
Every single one of us. But we didn't know that. We were just walking around doing life, not realizing that some of what was going on in our lives had to do with the trauma that we have been going through in the past few years.
Some from childhood.
Many of it from childhood. The part that was very revealing of the training was the art therapy, which was on the last day. And where people were allowed to allow their minds just wander and know that they were in a safe place.
Correct.
And that nothing would happen to them if they shared what was going on in their lives. Oh my gosh, that was so revealing. That was so powerful. People left out of here with hope. People left out of here with, okay, I'm not the only one suffering. I have these other 70 people that I could talk to, help me get through some of the stuff.
And who have experiences similar to my own.
Exactly.
They say suffering shared is suffering half resolved.
Exactly. And on that particular Friday, in the atmosphere, you could feel some relief. The atmosphere changed as people revealed the trauma that they were going through. What struck me was that we had quite a few young people in the group. And many of us think, oh, you know, they're in university, they've gotten their degree, they're this, that, and the other.
Everything is okay with them.
And everything is fine with them, and what's the problem? And just to hear them.
There are problems.
Oh my gosh, to hear what they're going through brought me even to think about my children and what my children may have gone through because of my lack of parenting or knowledge of what should be done.
Because they say parenting is the most important skill, but that's the one we don't train for.
And we don't get a certificate for.
No.
Nobody ever, you can become a parent even though you're crazy in the head. And nobody stops you.
And then among the casualties will be the children.
Your children and the grandchildren and the generations to come, because trauma unresolved
is trauma
trauma continued. And so, as a grandmother, which I am,
Praise the Lord.
I know, thank God. I know a lot of people wouldn't believe that, but I am a grandmother. And so you see the possibility of continued drama. You see the possibility of continued uneasiness in rearing children and grandchildren. And if you don't stop it, or if you don't get in there, if you don't start having those discussions that we need to be having, we're going to have future generations of very troubled young people. Very troubled young people. I happened to have the opportunity to speak to a young person yesterday, and the theme that kept coming out of our almost 3.5 hours conversation was, we need a parents forum. We need a parents forum. And I even go further and say we need a parent and young adults forum. And we need to have maybe a 5-day intensive training where we bring parents and young adults together, and where we have a general session in the morning, and then in the afternoon we split up into our different age groups and talk about
what I am hearing you say. Yeah, I mean, at Terra here we have had parents forum. We have had a town hall meeting on parenting.
There you go.
And then when we do our regular trainings in high schools, we do trainings for people preparing to be prefects, meaning the senior secondary school students in a number of schools. And then what often happens is that after 3 days of exposure with these students, many of them come to us and say, Father, can you do this for our parents?
Exactly.
Some come literally crying.
Exactly.
Can you organize this kind of workshop for our parents?
Exactly.
My mommy and daddy, they need this. Because the 15-year-old, 14-year-old is already discovering that from what we have learned in these last 3 years, there are gaps in the knowledge of my parents.
Exactly. And the gap is separating the relationship between generations. And I mean, I'm part of that mess too. So I'm not extricating
all of us,
myself.
somehow.
All of us are part of that mess. But we've got to come to a point where we change the dynamics and we change the paradigm. We're in a point in life, in our world, that we've got to make some serious paradigm shifts. Because if we don't, COVID-19 has already showed us what can happen if we don't take notice.
So during this this week-long training, trauma healing that you had, your own personal experience and the experience, what you observed with the 70 or so people that were present, is that this was a rich exposure.
Very, very rich. Rich from, I happen to be one of the 3 oldest people in the group. So it was rich for us. It was even richer for the younger adults, because there were quite a few young adults there that were anywhere between the age of, let's say, 22 and 30 that were there. And some of them, what they're struggling with, I don't even remember struggling with as a child myself.
They have more issues they are struggling with today.
Yes, the world has changed.
Yes.
And some of us parents and grandparents have not changed.
Yes.
And that's the struggle. Because as a grandparent, I want this and I want that and I want this and I want that, and you cannot tell me anything, and know what I say goes. The parents say the same thing. And the young adult is like, well, when do I get to think?
To say something.
When do I get to say something? Why? My voice doesn't matter? So why are you asking me to go to school or to do this or to do that?
Talking about why you're asking me to go to school, there's this story of a young man who had an 18, 19-year-old daughter who was studying in the university. And then she came home and there was a heated argument between her and her father. And her father was so shocked that this little girl would stand up to him and argue with him. And he said, would you keep what I say? Dad, you called for this. And I said, what do you mean? So you sent me to good schools.
Exactly.
You paid for me to think.
Yes.
And now you are quarreling that I am thinking. That guy kept short. Okay. I mean, you paid for me to think.
Yes. That's the point.
Yes.
And we send them to these wonderful schools, even out of the country, spend millions and millions of naira, because, you know, our naira has now lost its leg and footing in the world. But we spend all this money, send them away for 4, 6 years, maybe sometimes even 8, depending on what program they're in. And what? Do we expect them to come back to be dumb?
And by then, their world is completely different.
Very different. They've been exposed to anything and everything that even you and I can't even think about.
Yeah.
And then when they come back, and we force them to come back in many cases, we say, okay, no, you cannot do that. Hold it. Dad, wait a minute. I was doing that 5 years ago. What do you mean I can't do that? Well, in my house, you can. Whoa. Okay, guess what? I'm leaving. No, you can't leave. What? I can't do that. I can't leave. What's the problem?
What's going on here?
Yes. And then
why did I come back home?
Exactly.
I mean, I heard that before. Why did I come back home? In fact, a teenage young man told me, God rest his soul, he's late now. He told me, he said, look, Father, please, can you give me a book that can help my mom? My mom does not know how to raise a teenage son.
Exactly.
That's what he said. My mom does not know how to raise a teenage son. Can you get me a book to give my mom?
Yeah.
Now, back to the trauma healing. Among the 70 people that were there were also actually 2 priests who had been kidnapped.
Yes.
So the whole issue of the new reality in Nigeria of fear.
Yes.
We have some dark cloud hanging over us now of fear of kidnap, fear of being used for rituals, fear, just mortal fear.
Yes.
And what does that do to the mind? Well,
for parents, they're constantly agitated. Where are you? Calling you if you're the young adult. Where are you now? Okay, well, you left about 30 minutes ago. You should be home by now. Where are you going? Who are you with? Constant barging of the young adult. And the young adult is like, wait a minute. Why are you doing this? Well, the parent has an innate fear because they've heard about somebody else's child who got kidnapped or whatever, and they're thinking, oh, I don't want that to happen to my child. I need to know where my child is every 5 seconds. The child is like, wait a minute, I didn't have to report to anybody for the last 5 years where I was. Something's not right.
That's a whole different chapter on its own.
Oh, yes.
The chapter regarding the number of children, especially of the elite, that are sent out rather young.
Yes.
And they are in a different world. And parents and children don't understand themselves anymore.
And is that fear, though? Is that fear of not understanding? Because that's also another level of fear. I don't understand my child anymore. I'm afraid.
Yes.
I'm really afraid that this child is going to go off and do something that is going to mess up the family name. Because it's all about family name.
Yes.
It's not about anything else.
It's not about that child. It's about family name.
It's about family name.
Our respectability.
Yeah, exactly.
Beyond, you mentioned at the beginning the power of the art therapy.
Yes.
Which was what dominated the last day, and the reports to help people to visit themselves inside. Was there any other module that impressed you and your colleagues?
Yes. The other model that really brought out a lot of, actually was a releasing point, was the model on the mind, the body, and the spirit.
The mind, body, spirit connection.
Oh my gosh.
How would you summarize that?
Many people did not realize that their negative thinking affected their body, and that the body and the spirit were one in connection with the mind, and that whatever is going on in your mind is affecting all those, your body and your spirit.
Yes.
And it affects your body in terms of diseases, in terms of illnesses, in terms of just your general well-being.
Yes.
And then, of course, your spirit is struggling with the body and the mind to keep you from
So there is a symbiotic relationship between the mind, the body, and the spirit.
Very much
one, so. Negative development in one affects the other negatively.
Two. Yes.
And a positive development in one also
affects both. Yes. So the whole concept of that module was to start changing your mindset. Stop being so critical about life. Start thinking more positively. And when you start thinking more positively, you actually exude
positive vibes.
Yes, the energy, the vibrations in the atmosphere start to be calming, and everything and everyone around you starts to feel those positive vibrations. And in feeling the positive vibrations, you can actually have clarity of mind. You can start thinking differently. You can pause for a minute and say, hold on, everything can't just be bad. If this world was created by God,
then
God is love.
There's some plan.
There's some plan in the making. So why do I think that I, as a human being that God created, knows more than God, who is the creator? And God is love. And we're supposed to be created in his image. So if we're created in his image, that means we're supposed to be loved too. So why are we having all this madness that's going on? Why are we fighting against our creator? Because that's basically what it is.
Yeah. That's a mind, body, spirit connection and how they are good. What about the module on forgiveness?
That brought up a lot.
That brought up a lot for almost everyone.
Oh, right? Everybody was, but Father, you want me to forgive? How? How can I forgive this person? They did this, that, and the other to me. There's no way, Father. No. Forgive? No, Father. That is too tough for me. No. And we find out that people have been carrying hurts for years. For decades, for 30, 40, some even 50 years.
And it has taken so much out of their lives. Yes. So much joy, so much fulfillment out of their lives.
And they don't even make the connection to the fact that it's that unforgiveness that has created some of the turmoil that they've had in their life. Father, when you called me, I was praying, and there was a prayer or a chapter in the Bible, Psalm 68:19. And this is what it says. It says, praise the Lord, praise God our Savior, for each day he carries us in his arms.
Each day.
Yeah, each day, not each year, but each day. That's one version. Another version says, what a glorious God. He gives us salvation over and over. Then daily he comes and carries our burdens. And if we just remember that.
Yes.
Oh my goodness, what a better world we can create for ourselves and generations to come.
The Revised Standard Version, the New Revised Standard Version says, blessed be the Lord who daily bears us up. Blessed be the Lord who daily bears us up.
That's the key, daily.
Yes.
Daily.
It's not now and again.
No. And it's not, once a year or once a lifetime.
Yes.
No, daily.
Yes.
Daily. And he says, basically, he carries our burdens.
Yes. That bears us up. Yes.
That is.
I mean, my favorite in this respect, my favorite passage is Matthew's Gospel, chapter 11, verse 28. Come unto me. Come unto me, all you who labor and are overburdened, and I will give you rest. Shoulder my yoke and learn from me, that I am meek and humble of heart, and you will find rest for your souls. He says, for my yoke is easy and my burden is light. So it's definite that if we are believers and we truly believe that there is an overarching controller over the universe, and that nothing happens to you, nothing happens to me without his at least permitting it.
Yes.
So even that person that did this terrible thing, I am able to
forgiveness.
I'm able to let go.
Yes.
And
deserves forgiveness because God is the one bearing. If we are true to ourselves, and if we are true to, we read the Bible, Father, but we don't apply the Bible in our lives. And that's where a lot of us Christians are missing the point. It's wonderful for us to be able to quote from Genesis to Revelations and know all the wonderful verses in there. But is your life reflecting what you're reading? And many a times it is not. I give you a good example. On a Sunday, in almost any church, I don't care where you find the church, you have people who drive cars, then you have people who walk, and you have people who take public transportation.
Coming out of the driveway parking lot.
And everybody is in a rush to the point that in many cases, some children almost get run over because the children are free.
Yes.
They are not
in a hurry.
They're not in a hurry.
This is an open space. They want to enjoy themselves.
And you in the car is blowing your horn impatiently. What does it take for you?
And you are just coming out of a place that is supposed to have calmed you down.
Thank you. You've read all these Bible verses, you've had all these prayers, you've heard the sermon, and yet you get into your car 5 minutes later and you can't wait.
This is where we who are preachers, we who are leaders in the Christian church need to work more on helping people understand contemplative prayer.
Yes.
Because if we go to church and all we have done is making people sweat with very heavy whatever, then it won't be surprising if that agitation continues after.
Exactly.
But if you have been in a meditative mood for the past 1 hour, if much of the last 1-2 hours has been more of a contemplative mood in the presence of God, chances are that spirit will accompany you to the parking lot.
And beyond. Because you've gotten out of the parking lot. Now, okay, there's traffic coming in, there's traffic going out. Wait your turn. Why are you going to be blowing horns and blasting and pushing through? Because you think you're first.
We have just a few more minutes to round up this segment.
Yes, Father.
There is recently the federal government has recognized mental health as a major factor. And there's now, I think, a director in the Ministry of Health for mental health, meaning that the federal government is beginning to take it seriously. In view of the trauma healing that you had, if you are with the director of mental health in Federal Ministry of Health now, what would you tell her?
I would tell the director they need to come take this class.
Well,
they really do.
They may not want to take the class. So, but what will you tell them about?
Well, okay, if they refuse to take the class, then they really don't understand the job that they are given, unless they've taken something similar to that. But the bottom line is for them to be open, to make sure that they touch all levels of government and the community, because trauma starts from childhood. Trauma is not something that you wake up one day and you're 25 and you're traumatized.
Do you think that some of our leaders may be behaving the way they behave because they are traumatized?
They are traumatized. It's not do I think. I know they're traumatized because our country, just living in Nigeria, creates enough trauma. Just the lifestyles.
So these guys going around as governors, going around as senators, as House of Rep, as chairman of local governments are all traumatized. Meaning that they are dealing with mental health issues.
Yes. Because we don't want to say mental health because people don't want to be called crazy. Because that's our interpretation of what mental health is. Mental health has nothing to do with crazy.
No.
It has to do with what's going on in your psychic, what's going on in your mindset, how you are processing stuff.
Your emotions,
your passion, your how you influence and affect other people. That's what is going on. Are you thinking negatively or positively?
I wonder whether, let's say, parliamentarians who get provoked and fight in the assembly and carry furniture and hit
throw away.
Will they link it to mental health?
No, they wouldn't. They'll tell you they're angry. That's all. But it's a mental health issue.
Yes.
Because how can an adult who is 40, 50, 60 years old cannot control yourself and you're starting to throw furniture and fight in an open forum like that?
Before TV.
And you know it's being
recorded.
It's not as if to say you just came in and just realized, you know it's been recorded. Why can't you control yourself? Why can't you stop? Silence is the best logical way to stop all craziness.
Oh yes. On that note, I will be bringing this program to an end. I've been speaking with Dr. Ngozi Ukeje. She's a management consultant and training expert. She's a volunteer with a lot of humanitarian issues, and recently graduated from our psychotrauma healing training course. And we have been speaking about psychotrauma in our society and the need to take it seriously. By God, I pray that our leaders will take this matter seriously, because you are saying that almost everyone is traumatized just living in this country.
Yes.
May our leaders take this matter seriously, so that we will not leave wounded children and children's children in our society. Exactly. Because you cannot build a nation on wounded people.
No.
Healed people heal people. Wounded people go wounding others.
Yes.
May the good Lord heal us, so that we may be healers of others.
Yes.
God bless you.
God bless you, Father. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much. Yeah.